On the calm of a Tuesday morning, Sarah Mitchell, a renowned neurosurgery specialist, was driving through the streets of Atlanta. Her black Mercedes gleamed under the soft spring sunlight, a reflection of the meticulous brilliance of her career. At 45 years old, every detail of her journey had been conquered with determination and excellence. At the airport, her destination was clear. A private jet awaited her in the exclusive private aviation section. Boston needed her, more specifically, a patient whose future depended on her skill in a delicate and complex surgery. This wasn't just another case. It was the kind of situation that highlighted why Sarah was considered one of the best. The clock read 8:30 as she parked in the VIP area. There was enough time to mentally review the next steps, but as usual, she left no room for distractions. In the rear-view mirror, she adjusted her bun with precision, checking every detail of the presentation that defined her. A perfectly tailored navy blue blazer, a pearl necklace that reflected her elegance, and a demeanor exuding confidence. Stepping out of the car, Sarah firmly took hold of her essentials. In one hand, her leather briefcase containing crucial information for the procedure. Over her shoulder, a bag held her identification, passport, and flight details. Each of her steps echoed on the asphalt, her heels announcing her arrival with determination and authority. As she walked through the terminal, her mind stayed focused, not just on the surgery, but on everything that had brought her there. Every achievement, every challenge, every sacrifice, all converged for moments like this. For her, it wasn't just a job, it was her mission, and on the horizon, a private jet waited, ready to carry her to the next chapter of her story. The private terminal had an air of exclusivity that stood in stark contrast to the bustling main airport. It was a meticulously designed space, with expansive glass windows reflecting the morning's brilliance and contemporary architecture exuding sophistication. In the surrounding parking area, luxury vehicles stood out, while groups of travelers exchanged words in muted tones. The elegant departure of a private jet on the horizon served as a subtle reminder. For Sarah Mitchell, this was just another day in her extraordinary routine. As she approached the entrance, her attention was briefly drawn to a security guard. Positioned with a professional demeanor, he was a light-skinned man with gray hair that evidenced years of experience. His impeccably pressed blue uniform bore a badge that read his name, James Peterson. To Sarah, he was just another face in the long list of checkpoints she routinely encountered. Without hesitation, she kept her firm stride, confident as someone who had crossed many barriers before. However, something in the guard's sharp gaze seemed to linger on her longer than expected. With precise and deliberate movements, Sarah reached for her branded handbag, accustomed to maintaining impeccable organization. She swiftly pulled out the necessary documents, her medical license, passenger ID, and driver's license, all prepared even before stepping through the door. It was her ritual, honed over years of experience. Staying one step ahead, streamlined every detail of her demanding routine. Around her, the scene was tranquil. The chirping of birds mingled with the gentle sound of the breeze brushing against nearby trees. The fresh air carried the reminder of an early spring morning, while in the background, the distant hum of aircraft engines added a discreet soundtrack to the moment. Everything seemed perfectly ordinary, another day seamlessly, fitting into the routine of a professional who had reached the pinnacle. The private terminal reinforced the atmosphere of exclusivity. It was quiet, minimalist, with passengers who seemed to mirror Sarah's elegance. Business executives carried refined luggage, and the few faces present shared the same air of determination and purpose. Through the large windows, she spotted the private jet being prepared with precision by the ground crew. Every detail of the scene seemed designed to create a sense of control. As she walked, her mind returned to the purpose of the trip. Boston awaited her, and with it, a patient whose case embodied everything that made Dr. Mitchell such a sought-after specialist. It was a complex challenge, but exactly the kind of situation she had trained her entire life to face. Being called to solve cases others deemed impossible was both an honor and a responsibility she carried with pride. This would be her third emergency of the month. While exhaustion might weigh on others, she felt energized, ready. Every detail of the case passed through her mind with clarity, like a plan coming together piece by piece. This wasn't just another day. It was another opportunity to make a difference. A few steps before reaching the automatic doors, Sarah Mitchell, meticulous as always, grabbed her phone and quickly typed a message to her assistant. The confirmation was brief but essential. Her afternoon consultations had already been rescheduled. For her, organization wasn't just a tool, but an extension of who she was. Every detail was controlled with precision, which explained her prestigious position among the best in medicine. The soft noise of her briefcase's wheels rolling along the floor accompanied her thoughts. Her mind was already focused on the next step, the flight and the patient waiting in Boston. Every movement seemed part of a choreographed routine, but what she didn't know was that, at the threshold of that glass door, something unexpected awaited her. On the other side, the security guard, James Peterson, observed the approaching doctor. His eyes captured her confident figure, and something in his expression shifted. He adjusted his badge automatically, straightening up as he evaluated the situation. Until then, it had been a quiet shift, like any other, but in a matter of moments that encounter would take an unexpected turn. Sarah didn't notice the growing tension in the guard's posture. She continued advancing naturally, carrying with her an aura of professionalism and competence. For her, it was just another day, another flight, another challenging case. However, the events about to unfold would be anything but ordinary. What happened next wouldn't just disrupt her carefully structured routine. It would also open the door to a much larger discussion, one that touched on deep issues of prejudice, security, and the challenges faced even by those at the pinnacle of their careers. That ordinary day was about to transform into something etched in collective memory. The moment Sarah Mitchell crossed the terminal entrance, an unexpected barrier emerged before her. The security guard, James Peterson, positioned himself directly in her path, gesturing firmly for her to stop immediately. In the blink of an eye, his demeanor shifted from professional to hostile, and his voice echoed through the quiet space. "Ma'am, this isn't your place. You need to head to the main terminal." The phrase cut through the air like a knife. He didn't even glance at the documents she had meticulously prepared and now extended toward him. With composure, she replied, maintaining the poise that defined her. "Good morning, sir. I have my documentation. I have a flight scheduled for 9 JAG to Boston." She presented the papers again, but Peterson stepped back, crossing his arms firmly. His tone took on a note of defiance. "Look, I've been working here for 15 years. I know who's supposed to be here and who's not." His gaze swept over Sarah's figure, as though the precise cut of her suit and the subtle shine of her expensive shoes were reasons for suspicion rather than legitimacy. Behind him, 2 businessmen in suits entered the terminal without obstruction. Peterson didn't even glance at their credentials. Sarah noticed the discrepancy, felt the weight of the distrustful gaze, but took a deep breath, striving to maintain a calm and assertive tone. "I understand, sir, that you're just doing your job. However, I am a neurosurgeon on an emergency mission. Here are all my credentials, identification and flight documentation. I have every right to be here." Peterson let out a short, sarcastic laugh, loud enough to draw the attention of those nearby. People paused, curious glances beginning to gather. Some whispered, others already held their phones, ready to record. "Oh, sure, and I'm the President of the United States. Ma'am, I'll tell you one more time. The main terminal is where you need to go. "It's over there," he said, pointing disdainfully to a distant entrance nearly a kilometer away. A small crowd began to form. Low conversations mingled with the sound of phone notifications. Sarah felt the weight of this all-too-familiar situation, but never less painful. Standing tall, she knew this interaction wasn't just about her, it was bigger than that, and as so many times before, she would have to face it head-on. On the other side of the glass walls, Sarah Mitchell spotted the chartered jet ready on the runway, a reminder of her urgent responsibility. The clock read 8:40. Every minute lost was a risk to the patient waiting in Boston. She took a deep breath before addressing the guard again. "Mr. Peterson," she said, emphasizing the name she had read on his badge. "I'll ask you once more. Please verify my documentation. My flight leaves soon, and my patient's life depends on it." Though her tone was firm and controlled, Sarah felt her heart racing. She was accustomed to pressure, but this situation carried a different weight. Peterson's face reddened, and his voice rose with indignation. "Are you going to teach me how to do my job now, ma'am? If you don't leave here immediately, I'll call the police." He grabbed his radio, his exaggerated posture demonstrating authority. Before Sarah could respond, a white couple approached, carrying golf bags. Without hesitation, Peterson's demeanor shifted. He opened the door for them with a friendly smile. "Good morning, enjoy your flight," said Peterson as the couple hurried past, visibly uncomfortable with the scene. Sarah observed the stark contrast. The situation wasn't just frustrating, it was a clear injustice. She turned to Peterson, controlling her anger with deliberate calm. "So, you let them through without checking anything, but you refuse to look at my documents?" she asked. Taking out her phone, she began recording. "Is there something specific about me that makes you think I shouldn't be here?" The tension in the room rose instantly. Peterson appeared visibly agitated, his face reddening further. His hand gripped the radio tightly. "Are you accusing me of something? Is that it? I'll call security right now," he yelled, his voice trembling with anger. Behind them, the crowd grew. Some people whispered, while others were already holding up their phones to record the scene. Then a young woman in the crowd spoke up loudly. "This isn't right. She just wants her documents checked." But Peterson ignored the voice from the group, focused on maintaining control of the situation. Sarah knew she couldn't back down. What was at stake here was bigger than her flight. Dr. Sarah Mitchell remained composed, grounded in years of experience handling high-pressure situations. Her breathing was steady, and her posture conveyed the confidence of someone who knew she was on the right side of reason. Among the gathered crowd, she noticed an older man in a pilot's uniform watching closely. His expression was one of concern, as though assessing the gravity of the situation. The phones around were raised, recording every word and gesture. With the firm and professional voice that defined her, she tried once more. "Mr. Peterson, I don't want to cause any trouble. I need to board my flight. A patient in Boston is waiting for me for an emergency consultation. Please just check my documents." Her words were ignored. The guard was clearly more interested in asserting his authority than resolving the situation. He pressed the radio button firmly, speaking loud enough for the onlookers to hear. "Security, we have a situation at the private terminal entrance." As he spoke, he positioned himself even more imposingly, moving to block Sarah's view of the jet, waiting for her on the runway. He seemed determined to reinforce his control, though he had no valid basis for doing so. But what he didn't know was that Sarah had already taken steps to address the situation. Discreetly, she had sent a message to the private jet company representative explaining what had happened. Additionally, with her frequent travel experience, she knew how to handle emergencies. Her phone was already connected to the airport's security operations center, and with a quick, almost imperceptible movement, she pressed the call button. While Peterson continued his theatrics, Sarah knew that her calm and strategic approach was her best weapon. This wasn't just about boarding the flight. It was about making it clear that even in the face of prejudice and obstacles, she wouldn't back down. Deep down, she had full confidence that the truth would always prevail. The tension in the terminal reached a new level. The morning sunlight streamed through the glass walls, illuminating the scene as if it were the focus of an unexpected performance. The crowd grew, and the whispers grew louder, filling the uncomfortable silence with murmurs of indignation. From outside, Dr. Sarah Mitchell spotted the pilot of her flight on the phone, his expression worried. The ground crew, previously occupied with pre-flight preparations, now observed the commotion at the entrance, their work interrupted by the growing agitation. Maintaining her controlled voice, Sarah addressed Peterson again. "My flight departs in 15 minutes. A patient in Boston is waiting for an emergency consultation. Every minute counts for their health." She held up her medical license, visibly frustrated, but Peterson deliberately ignored her, turning his back as if her words carried no weight. Among the observers, an older woman decided to intervene. Her voice cut through the growing noise. "This is absurd. She's shown all the documents. What more do you want?" The crowd murmured in agreement, heads nodding in support of the doctor. Peterson, for his part, grew even angrier, his face now a deep red, almost purple. "All of you are interfering with security protocols," he shouted, his voice almost trembling with frustration. "If you don't back away now, you'll have to deal with the police." As he continued, Sarah quickly checked her phone. Her message to the private jet company had been read, and the Security Operations Center was still online, following every detail of the situation. She knew help was close, but she also knew she needed to keep control of the situation until it arrived. At that moment, a teenage girl in the crowd raised her phone and began live streaming. "This is already going viral," she said urgently. "More than 1,000 people are watching now." Her words resonated in the terminal. Peterson heard them and immediately lost his composure. Trying to block the cameras, he yelled, "You can't film me! This is a restricted area! No recording!" Aloud, but it was already too late. The scene was being documented by dozens of phones, and every move he made was captured. The crowd, outraged, began pressing further, while Sarah remained firm, with a confidence that only years of handling critical situations could provide. The stage was set, and resolution seemed inevitable. The moment of change was near. As Peterson continued his confrontation, raising his voice and gesturing at Dr. Mitchell and the crowd around her, the automatic doors of the terminal opened silently behind him. 3 figures entered with firm steps: the head of airport security, a tall and imposing woman in an impeccable black suit, the representative of the private jet company, David Chen, and the terminal's general manager, Mr. Roberts. The murmur of the crowd ceased instantly. The silence that followed was almost palpable as all eyes turned to the newcomers. Peterson, with his back turned, continued his tirade. "You think you can fool me? That these people filming will change anything? I've worked here for 15 years and know exactly who belongs here and who doesn't." Before he could say more, the head of security stepped forward and cleared her throat audibly. Her voice cut through the air like a knife. "Mr. Peterson, step away from Dr. Mitchell immediately." The guard turned quickly, his jaw dropping as he recognized who stood before him. The red flush of anger on his face turned to a sudden pallor. He opened and closed his mouth, but no words came out. Ms. Thompson, the head of security, maintained her firm tone. "Hand over your badge now." David Chen, the jet company representative, moved to stand beside Dr. Mitchell, showing solidarity. He spoke in a professional tone, but was clearly indignant. "Dr. Mitchell, I apologize for this incident. We've worked with you for 3 years, and this behavior is completely unacceptable." With a tablet in hand, he quickly accessed Dr. Mitchell's flight history and showed it to Peterson. The evidence was clear and indisputable. The general manager, Mr. Roberts, intervened with authority. Peterson, you heard Ms. Thompson. Hand over your badge now and accompany the guards to the office. Peterson, visibly shaking, removed his badge with trembling hands. The crowd, until then silent, watched attentively. Many still held their phones up, recording every moment. The teenage girl, live streaming, gave her audience an update. Now more than 10,000 people are watching. This is going viral. Dr. Mitchell, even in the midst of the turmoil, adjusted her suitcase in her hand and looked toward the runway, where the jet waited. Her mission was clear, and she wouldn't waste any more time on injustices. Amid the commotion, the general manager, Mr. Roberts, closely examined the security camera footage on his tablet. His expression turned grim, and he announced in a grave voice that resonated in the terminal, "In 1 hour, Peterson allowed 23 passengers through without checking any documentation." Dr. Mitchell was the only one stopped. The silence that followed his statement was loaded with discomfort. Ms. Thompson, the head of security, shook her head, clearly outraged. Addressing the crowd, she assumed an official tone. "Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Atlanta International Airport, I apologize for what occurred. This incident does not reflect our values or standards." She then turned directly to Dr. Mitchell with a look of respect. "Dr. Mitchell, we'll ensure you board your flight immediately." Meanwhile, 2 security officers arrived to escort Peterson. His once imposing stance was now defeated, his eyes lost in the crowd, still watching him. Many continued filming, documenting the final moments of the incident. The jet company representative, Mr. Chen, was already expediting the process. "Dr. Mitchell, I'm coordinating with the pilot. He's powering up the engines now. We'll depart in 10 minutes, he informed her, before summoning a VIP staff member who promptly took over handling her luggage. At that moment, a businessman who had defended Dr. Mitchell earlier approached. He extended his hand with an expression of gratitude. "Dr. Mitchell, my wife was your patient last year. You saved her life. I recorded everything that happened today. Would you like a copy for your lawyers?" Sarah thanked him with a discreet smile, but turned to Ms. Thompson. "I don't want anyone to lose their job," Sarah said, firm yet calm, "but I want to make sure this never happens to anyone else." The head of security nodded in agreement. "Trust me, Doctor, significant changes will be made. It's clear we need to review our training and security policies." The crowd began to disperse, but support for Sarah remained. A flight attendant who had witnessed the scene approached and handed her a business card. "I've seen things like this before, but I never knew how to act. If you need, I'm available to give my testimony." A few minutes later, an electric cart arrived to take Sarah to the plane. She settled into the seat with a deep sense of relief and determination. Looking out the window, she saw Peterson in the security office, his head in his hands. The contrast was striking. Where there had been arrogance, there was now the weight of consequences. As the jet finally took off, Sarah felt that the day would not be forgotten, not just by her, but by everyone involved. In that moment, she knew. Her mission extended beyond saving lives in the operating room. It was also a reminder that justice and dignity must be upheld everywhere. The sun was already high in the sky when Dr. Sarah Mitchell's private jet finally gained altitude, leaving behind Atlanta International Airport and the chaos that had taken control of the morning. As the aircraft cut through the air, the world, on the ground, buzzed with the repercussions of the incident. Seated in the soft leather chair, Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the recent moments gradually dissipate. Lisa, the flight attendant, approached with a steaming cup of tea and a look of curiosity mixed with empathy. "Dr. Mitchell," Lisa began in a confidential tone, "before takeoff, I checked my phone. Your story is already trending on Twitter and Facebook. People are calling you a hero for staying calm." Lisa showed her the phone screen, where the video of the confrontation had already surpassed 1 million views. Supportive comments flooded social media, praising Sarah's composure and questioning the guard's behavior. Back at the private terminal, The atmosphere was even more hectic. Vans from local and national news outlets, including CNN, ABC, and Fox News, were parked outside. Reporters with microphones and cameras broadcast live, reporting on the events that had quickly become a national topic. The incident was already being described as a clear example of discrimination, and the public demanded answers. Inside the security office, James Peterson sat slumped, his posture hunched, and his demeanor devoid of any trace of the authority he had displayed earlier. Ms. Thompson, accompanied by two other officers, regarded him with an unyielding gaze. On a large monitor on the wall, security camera footage clearly showed his pattern of behavior. Several white passengers passing freely without any checks, while 3 black passengers, including Dr. Mitchell, were stopped. Ms. Thompson flipped through a report with a serious expression. In the past few hours, you didn't check the documentation of any white passengers, but stopped 3 black passengers. This includes Dr. Mitchell, who presented multiple valid documents that you refused to accept. She paused, allowing the weight of the evidence to settle on him. Would you like to explain this pattern? Peterson lowered his head, staring at his hands. The arrogance from earlier had vanished, replaced by an expression of defeat. I was just trying to keep things secure, he mumbled, but his voice was weak, devoid of any conviction. Ms. Thompson crossed her arms, her gaze unwavering. That's not security. That's discrimination, and we will ensure that incidents like this never happen again at our facilities. As Dr. Mitchell's plane headed toward Boston, the story gained traction. She knew the day wouldn't be just another frustrating experience. It was a catalyst for a larger conversation, one she hoped to help lead. Her calm and resilience not only secured her flight, but planted seeds of change in a system that still needed to confront its own biases. At the heart of the terminal, the general manager's office was a whirlwind of activity. Phones rang incessantly as his team tried to manage the fallout from the incident. The airport's social media team reported that thousands of people were sharing accounts of discrimination at airports, while news networks requested official statements. Civil rights organizations had already spoken out in support of Dr. Mitchell, offering legal and moral assistance. Meanwhile, aboard the private plane, Dr. Sarah Mitchell turned off her phone, temporarily shutting out the chaos to focus on what truly mattered: saving lives. With a cup of tea beside her, she opened the medical files of the patient awaiting her in Boston. Every line, every scan image was analyzed with care. Yet one notification lingered in her mind, a message from her sister. You handled it like a queen. Mom and Dad would be so proud. Sarah smiled briefly, feeling a comforting warmth amid the day's emotional turbulence. At Atlanta Airport, the repercussions of the incident continued to unfold. In the office of the jet charter company, David Chen gathered his team for an emergency meeting. He spoke with determination. This incident should never have happened. Starting today, all our VIP passengers will have digital ID cards with photos. This will eliminate any room for bias or subjective interpretation. In the main terminal, televisions broadcast live reports on the incident, showing different angles of videos capturing Dr. Mitchell maintaining her composure in the face of Peterson's aggression. The hashtags Dr. Mitchell wronged and private aviation discrimination dominated social media as people shared similar experiences, turning the episode into a national debate. During the flight, Lisa approached again, offering a shy smile. Dr. Mitchell, my daughter is in medical school. She admires doctors like you. Thank you for showing her how to handle discrimination with dignity. Sarah thanked her with a gentle smile, but soon returned to the medical documents, keeping her focus on what truly mattered: the patient relying on her. At the airport's operations, Center General Manager Roberts and Ms. Thompson reviewed Peterson's prior records. Roberts looked concerned as he reported, "We've found 12 similar incidents just last year. All show a clear pattern of discrimination." Ms. Thompson sighed deeply, examining the neglected complaints. "This is unacceptable. We can no longer ignore such obvious issues. Changes must happen immediately." As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, Dr. Mitchell's flight pressed on, and her story, now amplified by thousands of voices, sowed seeds of transformation. She knew there was much work ahead, but, as always, she was ready to face any challenge, whether in the operating room or the world. At the terminal where the incident occurred, informational signs were being installed. They highlighted passenger rights and outlined correct security procedures, aiming to increase transparency and protect travelers. Technical teams upgraded surveillance cameras, while announcements about mandatory training for all staff reinforced the airport's commitment to change. Teenager Jenny Martinez, whose live stream had brought the incident to a global audience, was already a popular figure on social media. In an interview with a local channel, she explained with maturity beyond her years, "I knew I had to record. What that guard did was clearly wrong, and Dr. Mitchell handled everything so dignifiedly. People need to see that these things still happen so that something changes." The impact of the incident quickly spread, sparking a national debate. In the airport's executive office, an emergency meeting brought together senior management. CEO Richard Wilson joined via video conference, his expression grave. "This incident goes far beyond an individual error," he declared. "It's about how we treat our passengers, how we train our employees, and how our systems fail to prevent discrimination. A full review of our security system begins now." Ms. Thompson presented a detailed report, revealing examples of discrimination over the past years, many of which had been overlooked. "Ignoring these issues brought us to this point," she stated firmly. "But now we have the opportunity to correct them." Meanwhile, Dr. Mitchell landed in Boston, heading straight to the hospital. After successfully conducting the emergency consultation for her patient, she was surprised by a warm reception from the medical team. Many colleagues had seen the viral video and were there to show their support. Among them, a young black medical student timidly approached. "Dr. Mitchell, thank you for showing us that it's possible to face discrimination without losing dignity. You've inspired me to believe I can achieve my goals, even in the face of challenges." Sarah smiled, feeling that despite the emotional toll, the impact of her actions reached far beyond what she imagined. Back in Atlanta, General Manager Roberts announced a $1 million investment plan to implement new training and improvements in the terminal. At a press conference, he emphasized, "This incident was a wake-up call. We cannot allow something like this to happen again. We are committed to real changes." The effort in Atlanta reverberated across the country. Other airports began contacting Atlanta's airport to learn from the implemented changes. Ms. Thompson spent hours on the phone, sharing new protocols and discussing ways to prevent discrimination in the aviation sector. Dr. Sarah Mitchell's story became a milestone, reminding everyone that even a single incident can spark significant change when handled with courage and determination. Her message resonated. Dignity and resilience can transform even the most unjust adversities into a catalyst for progress. On social media, Jenny Martinez, the teenager who live-streamed the incident involving Dr. Sarah Mitchell, became a prominent figure in the debate on justice and civil rights. Inspired by the impact of her stream, she launched the organization Record for Rights, aimed at empowering people to document discrimination and abuses safely without putting anyone at risk. Her practical tips for safe and effective recording gained rapid popularity. Meanwhile, Dr. Mitchell chose to maintain a low profile. Despite receiving numerous interview requests from major media outlets, she only agreed to speak with a medical journal. "This isn't about me," she said. "It's about creating a system that respects all individuals, regardless of their appearance." Days after the incident, the effects of change were already being felt. At Atlanta Airport, clear signs of progress began to emerge. Security guards started wearing body cameras to record all interactions, promoting transparency and accountability. New explanatory panels were installed in multiple languages, clearly and accessibly highlighting passengers' rights and security. Procedures. Additionally, a dual verification system was implemented at every checkpoint, with 2 guards working together to reduce individual bias. At the headquarters of the jet charter company, Mr. Chen announced a technological advancement that promised to revolutionize VIP passenger service. A digital identification system was developed, including photos and pre-approved data that eliminated the need for subjective checks. In an official statement, he declared, "This new system will ensure our clients are treated with respect and without prejudice." Jenny Martinez also continued to gain prominence, being invited to appear on a popular morning show. In her interview, she emphasized the importance of standing up against injustices. Documenting injustices can make a difference. Dr. Mitchell stayed calm and professional, and that inspired all of us to do the same. As the story continued to resonate, it became clear that the incident had triggered changes far beyond the terminal where it all began. Sarah Mitchell's action and Jenny's courage created a wave of awareness, reminding everyone that even in difficult situations, well-directed actions can provoke significant transformations. At the Boston hospital, Dr. Sarah Mitchell was finishing another long day of consultations when her secretary brought her a pile of letters. Many of them were from people who had faced discrimination in similar situations, expressing gratitude for the example she had set. Among them, one letter stood out. It was from a young black student aspiring to become a doctor. Her simple, yet powerful words deeply moved Sarah. "You showed me that we can be strong and professional even when others try to bring us down. Thank you for being my inspiration." As she read, Dr. Mitchell felt a mix of emotions. Knowing that her experience had given courage to others reinforced her determination to keep fighting, not just in her profession, but also for equality. Back at Atlanta Airport, transformation was in full swing. Ms. Thompson, now leading the overhaul of security procedures, organized emergency training for all staff. In a conference room, the video of the incident was projected with a clear warning. "This is a reminder that bias can dangerously and unacceptably influence our actions," she explained. "Our mission is to ensure that all passengers are treated with respect and equality, regardless of their appearance." Among the changes, Peterson, who was fired following the incident, decided to pursue a path of rehabilitation. He began participating in a program focused on raising awareness about unconscious bias. In a live interview, his voice trembled as he admitted, "Watching the video of myself was devastating. I didn't like the person I saw. I hope my experience serves as a wake-up call for others. We can't let our biases override our professionalism." Weeks after the incident, the impact was evident. At Atlanta International Airport, structural reforms were transforming daily operations. In addition to body cameras and digital scanners, a revised code of conduct was introduced, developed in collaboration with civil rights specialists. Ms. Thompson became a national leader in the movement for change. In an interview with a major television network, she shared, "This incident showed us how unconscious biases can affect not only passengers' experiences, but also the integrity of airport security. Our commitment is to transparency, respect, and equality for all." Meanwhile, the jet charter company also reinvented itself. Mr. Chen reported an increase in client trust, especially among minorities who had previously expressed reservations about using private aviation services. In a statement, he said, "We've learned that ensuring equality and respect isn't just the right thing to do. It's essential for building a sustainable and successful business." In the end, the incident involving Dr. Mitchell became a catalyst for much greater change. Reflecting on everything, Sarah knew her response to the situation had been more than a personal defense. It became a symbol of resilience and a source of inspiration for many facing similar struggles. The message was clear. Dignity and determination can transform moments of adversity into opportunities for progress. As the media frenzy continued, Dr. Sarah Mitchell remained focused on her medical practice. At the Boston hospital, her routine of saving lives remained unwavering. Among consultations and surgeries, a new element became part of her days. The young medical student who had sent her a heartfelt letter now visited regularly. Under Dr. Mitchell's mentorship, the student found not only technical advice, but also personal inspiration. "You taught me not to give up, even when the world tries to exclude us," the young woman said, her eyes shining with emotion. In the public sphere, the impact of the incident transcended the aviation sector. A broader debate on bias and discrimination gained momentum on social media, talk shows, and televised debates. The role of documenting such situations and the courage to face injustices became central themes. Jenny Martinez, the teenager who filmed the incident, expanded her organization, Record for Rights, to other cities, promoting workshops and events on how to safely document injustices. "It all started with Dr. Mitchell," Jenny explained at a packed event. "She showed us that dignity and professionalism can lead to lasting change." Meanwhile, James Peterson, the former security guard, participated in a documentary about workplace bias. Though he still faced criticism, he was determined to turn his experience into a lesson for others. "I can't change what I did," he admitted on camera, "but I can use my story to prevent others from making the same mistakes." The impact of the incident culminated in an invitation for Dr. Mitchell to participate in a national aviation security conference held in Washington, D.C. The auditorium was packed with airport managers, security chiefs, and civil rights leaders from across the country. Alongside Ms. Thompson, Sarah took the stage, where she was met with a standing ovation. On the giant screen behind them, charts highlighted the significant changes implemented at airports adopting the new protocols, now called Mitchell Standards. The data was impressive: an 80% reduction in complaints related to discrimination and increased passenger satisfaction. "The day Dr. Mitchell was prevented from boarding changed everything," declared Ms. Thompson. "What began as an isolated incident became a revolution in our approach to airport security." When Sarah took the microphone, her voice was calm, but filled with conviction. "No system is perfect, but progress begins when we recognize our flaws and take steps to correct them. Dignity and respect must be the foundation of every human interaction, especially during vulnerable moments like travel." The auditorium erupted in applause, signaling that the message had been received. The incident, which could have been just another case of injustice, became a milestone for structural and cultural change. Thanks to Sarah Mitchell's resilience and professionalism and the courage of people like Jenny Martinez, their story would resonate as a powerful reminder. Even the toughest adversities can be catalysts for transformation. Back at her clinic, Dr. Mitchell closed another day of work saving lives. Her medical routine continued, but something about her practice had changed. She was now a symbol of hope and resilience for many. Young aspiring doctors frequently visited her clinic, seeking not just professional guidance, but also inspiration to overcome challenges in their own lives. Among them was a young medical student who had become a constant presence after sending a letter weeks earlier. During a conversation, the student grew emotional. "You taught me that even when the world tries to bring us down, we can rise with dignity." Meanwhile, the impact of the incident at Atlanta International Airport continued to resonate. The private terminal, once a symbol of exclusivity, transformed into a model of inclusion and efficiency. Digital verification systems eliminated subjectivity, and new explanatory panels in multiple languages ensured all passengers knew their rights. Security guards wore body cameras, and regular unconscious bias training sessions were instituted, many led by specialists like James Peterson. Peterson, now acting as a diversity consultant, admitted his mistakes in interviews and training sessions. "I can't erase what I did," he murmured, "but I can use my experience to prevent others from making the same mistakes." In the aviation sector, Mitchell standards began, transforming operations globally. Companies and airports in over 20 countries adopted the changes. In Geneva, aviation leaders highlighted the protocols as a milestone in the evolution of airport security. Ms. Thompson, who spearheaded the reforms at Atlanta Airport, stated, "The incident with Dr. Mitchell was a catalyst for real change. We're proving that equity and efficiency can go hand in hand." In the public domain, Jenny Martinez, the teenager whose recording went viral, expanded her organization, Record for Rights, to over 100 cities. Her app, designed to help people document injustices safely, became an indispensable tool. "Dr. Mitchell showed us that dignity can lead to lasting change," Jenny said during a presentation. Meanwhile, Dr. Mitchell, though reluctant to be the center of attention, continued to be honored. Her clinic inaugurated a wing dedicated to her positive impact, attracting medical students from diverse backgrounds. In a speech at the inauguration, she reinforced her commitment to her vocation. "Success is the best response to prejudice, and helping others achieve success is even better." 6 months after the incident, the results were tangible. Complaints of discrimination at airports that adopted Mitchell standards had dropped drastically. Moreover, the debate on unconscious bias gained strength, not only in aviation, but across other sectors. Dr. Mitchell was invited to close a global event in Geneva on equality and aviation security. Looking out at the auditorium filled with international leaders, she said, "What started as a terrible morning became a movement to ensure everyone is treated with respect and dignity. The real impact of change is how it improves life for everyone, not just one individual." The auditorium erupted in applause, acknowledging the strength and vision of a woman who turned adversity into progress. Back at her clinic, Dr. Mitchell found a special letter. It was from a medical student about to graduate. "Thank you for showing that we can turn adversity into change. You didn't just save lives, you paved the way for many like me." Sarah smiled, carefully keeping the letter. Despite all she had achieved, she knew the fight for equality and dignity still had a long way to go. And as always, she was ready to continue leading by example. If you enjoyed this story and want more content like this, leave a like below. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. That way you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.